Sonic Boom!
Hey, what's up? This is Back for a Punch. Today I'm going to do a review of Streets of Rage for the Sega Genesis. Alright, Streets of Rage came out in 1991 for the Sega Genesis in North America, and it wasn't one of the launch titles, but I remember it being really popular. I mean, of course 1991 is a few years into the Genesis, but I remember the Genesis at first wasn't as popular. I remember Sonic the Hedgehog came out in, I believe it was 1990. And I remember this being, after Sonic, being one of the big titles for the Genesis. And you can really realize that when you notice that it's been on some compilations and other stuff like that as well afterwards. So obviously it's one of those hit games that people are going to want to keep buying over and over again. I actually have the original box and manual for the game. And this actually isn't the copy I had when I was a kid, which even though this game is pretty common just because it was so popular back then, I actually still do have the copy I had when I was a kid and still got all those frays and everything. I've already lost the box for this one, so I had to actually buy a new copy so I would get the box and manual, because this is really one of my favorite games. It's a pretty good beat 'em up. You get to pick up from 3 characters and just basically fight your way through. I believe there are 8 levels, and I believe, as far as I know, the music on this is some of the best on the Sega Genesis. I will do afterwards a video about Streets of Rage 2, which I think was also equally as good. I actually like this one better because it's more of like the urban environment feel and it's more realistic. Because the story is supposed to be, as far as I looked at the manual in the back of the box and playing the game itself, is that you're ex-cops who decide to become vigilantes and just take down all the crime and everything on your own. And in number 2 it started getting like magical and mystical and stuff, so I didn't really like that as much. Alright, so let's just pop it in and then we'll try it out. Last time the review I showed you actually was recorded off an emulator. I mean you obviously saw I had the cartridge. But this time I'm not gonna cheat you guys, even though I can't record it off of some kind of an input. I'm gonna record it straight off of the television, so we're gonna see how this goes. Alright, so here we are at Streets of Rage for the Sega Genesis. Here's the opening here, which I think is pretty cool. Of course, it takes that traditional 8-bit, 16-bit opening where you just have scrolling text over a picture. But I just really like the music on the opening, actually. I like the music in the whole game, really. It's done by Yuzo Koshiro. And he also did the music for Revenge of Shinobi. He did the rest of the Streets of Rage series, obviously. He did ActRaiser for the Super Nintendo. But basically, I think he's one of the best video game music composers that I've ever heard. So it's actually worth playing the game just to listen to the music, because it's so good. Right now, I actually don't have it coming out of the television because I don't really like the quality of that. I have it coming out of my speakers on my computer, which is in surround sound. So it should sound a little better. Alright, let's start the game up. First thing I always do when I start this game is go to the options screen, because for some reason they have A set to your special attack instead of A being regular attack. And I always accidentally hit the special attack button and waste one. And you get 3 characters, and they're graded based on power, jumping power, and speed. So I guess A is good and B is bad. I think Axel is the all-around guy that usually people use, and Blaze is the backup. Actually, they took Adam out in all the rest of the games for some random reason. But actually, he's my favorite character. That's who we're going to be using right now. One thing I really like about this game is the detail and the backgrounds and everything. It really looks like a city. I actually live in New York City, so I really get the idea of what they're trying to show here. Obviously, it's probably made in Japan, and they probably didn't actually reference much from New York City, but they did a good job getting that whole feel of the urban environment. That was what I was saying before, that I really didn't like as much in 2, and of course not 3. Because they're both good games, but in 2 and 3 it doesn't have that same urban feel as it does in this game, which I think was a cool idea. I thought that was really the point of the series until I started playing the later games, and they basically just expand on the beat 'em up and the mechanics of the fighting. These graphics, when they came out in 1991, were very good. They might not look amazing now, but in 1991 when they came out, they were pretty good graphics. Genesis graphics did get better as it went on, of course. Streets of Rage 2 has much improved sprites on the graphics and everything, and the colorings are a little bit better, but I like the graphics in this game still. It starts to look dated next to other beat-em-ups if you look at it afterwards. Whenever I put up Streets of Rage 2 after I do that, you can just see the difference, and it makes this start to look dated. But anyway, you got attack button, which is your A button. B is your jump. This isn't the default, obviously, you just saw me change it. And then C is your special attack, which I'll show you one now because I'll be wasting it. And one thing I really like is the special attack is a car drives up and shoots like a certain type of projectile out. In 2, they took that out and they made it your own special attack, but I really like the idea that you have backup, that you're like a police in the police department. It's pretty cool. It's always fun for the bosses to have that little piece of time waiting for the car to drive up and shoot off the bomb. Another cool thing is you got lots of weapons. There's bats, there's pipes, there's bottles, there's knives. There's lit cigarettes, which just make people disoriented when you throw them at them. And in all, I think it's a pretty awesome game. I guess I'll show a little bit more of this level, and then I'll record more when I've gone on more. What I'll do is I'll record back when I get to the boss again. Recording again, I forgot to mention that the life power-ups are meat and apples. So that was meat, that gives you almost full life. And there's also apples, which give you about a quarter of your life or a third of your life back. Okay, here we are at the boss of the first stage. He's actually pretty easy, but I think it's a cool boss. It's basically this huge guy that throws a boomerang that comes back at you. He's not too hard, and when you face 2-player in this game, you actually get 2 bosses each time. So I think it makes the rest of the game easier, but it makes these boss battles significantly harder to play 2 players. I remember I used to play with my friend, and what I would do is I would wait for him to join until the boss was there, so there was only one boss during the time that we fought the boss, or at least the first boss, so we get a little bit of a break. Kind of cheating, you know? But the second player can join any time in this game, so that's kind of an interesting thing. Level 2 is pretty cool. It's like in like a deeper part of the city or something. It's like in a bad neighborhood or something. I really like the music in this stage, and there's a cool effect of like wind blowing like all kinds of garbage. You'll see it in a little bit. That's a pretty cool thing. You can also throw your enemies, and like I did just there, you can if they grab you, you can throw them back. There's that garbage effect. There's that lit cigarette. I think this game is pretty cool as far as beat 'em ups go. Comparing this to Final Fight, which is the contemporary of this, the graphics aren't as good, but I really like the gameplay in this game. I'd say it's very similar to Final Fight. I'm not sure which one came out first or not. Which one as well. I don't remember where I was at. Okay, I don't remember if Final Fight or this came out first, but Final Fight is definitely better in terms of graphics, but I like the music and the gameplay in this better. But that could just be my bias, because this is what I had as a kid. And I hadn't really played Final Fight until kind of recently. I like the effect of the background, like the broken windows and the patched up wall and the posters and stuff. It really gets the urban environment feel that I really feel you're missing in 2. See, like even there's like the wind blowing the corner of that poster there. I like the detail they really went into in the backgrounds in this game. The character sprites are actually pretty good too. I don't know how much you can really tell on this video like this, but even the character sprites look pretty good to me.